Hello, and welcome to Bedford High School's College Information Night for juniors. Thank you guys so much for coming out, and also thank you to those who are viewing us online from home. We're so happy to see your faces, and sorry, my mic skills are not great. So better. I'm Lisa Jackson, the Dean of Student Services. I've actually been here at Bedford High School since Bedford High School opened, which is really exciting for me. I was a school counselor first, and now this is my third year serving the school as a Dean of Student Services. So I'm really proud of the school and proud of the programs that we have here in the school counseling office to offer you. We have a wonderful group of school counselors that are here tonight that are going to present a lot of information for you. This is the introduction to college information and planning. Just know that this is the introduction, and there are many pieces. There's lots of information that's going to be given to your student in the classroom, given to your student one-on-one with their counselor, as well as information that will be given to you. But always feel free to reach out and ask questions. Each of you have your own experience. Your students are unique in what they're going to need and what you're going to need. So always feel free to reach out to us and ask for help. That's what we're here for. With that, if you do have questions tonight, we're going to hold off on answering those until the end. So just go ahead and write them down or put it aside, and then at the end, after we've gone through all of the information, we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions. So this is our great team here. We have 7 school counselors. Your student has the same school counselor based on their alphabet from 9th through 12th grade. So their pictures are here, and then most of them are here tonight, and they're going to introduce themselves to you as they come up to speak and present their information. So tonight is primarily focused on college information and planning, but we work with all students regardless of their plan. So if they're looking at the military, or they want to do a gap year, or they're looking at AmeriCorps, anything like that, those are all programs that we support students regardless of their goal. But tonight in and of itself is focused on college information. So just know that if you have other plans or your student wants to look at other options, we are here for them as well. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Ms. Lipinski.
Thank you, Ms. Jacks. Well, welcome everybody. This is a really exciting time for you all, certainly, and equally for us as your school counselors here at Bedford High School. I think I speak for all of us, and this is one of our favorite processes with working with students. We've been excited to see your juniors in the classroom talking about all of these same things back in December, and we're back in actually this month with part 2 of our series on the college research part. So it's exciting to see you here tonight. So when we start thinking about the process, we're really talking about how it begins and ends with the student. We are all here, including you all, to support and guide and offer advice and maybe some structures, but it really is a process that should be driven by the student. And we really are encouraging students to start really thinking about their strengths, maybe some of their weaknesses, their long-term goals, their personality, maybe job experiences that they've had that they really have enjoyed or maybe not have enjoyed. It's really starting to get kids thinking about their next steps because it's coming and it comes fast. I know for me, during our last set of lessons, I told the students with the holidays coming up, it was a great time to talk to family and friends about their path and where did they go to school or what are they doing for work and what do they like about it, what do they not like, what did they look for in a college. I think those are great ways for students to engage in adults who have been there, done that, and to learn a little bit about their process and the good, the bad, and the ugly of that. So it's a great time to really start thinking about the process and how it begins and ends with the student. So in a minute, we're going to show you a fun video about what some of our BHS alums are up to. This is several years back now. We need to update this graduation year with some of our students of the class of 2021, but it's a fun video to see what our Bedford High School students, where they're going and what they're studying. Before we show you that, we just want to make sure that we recognize for students that it looks different for all students. Some of our students are going to be going into certificate programs, some are going to be going into 2-year associate degree programs. Many of our students do head off to 4-year bachelor programs. Some students think about gap years, military, apprenticeships, lots of different options. Again, tonight the focus is on the college process. So when we're talking to our kids in class and in those individual meetings we're going to be having, we're sort of starting to ask them to think about, where do you want to be? Do you want a big school? Do you know what that means? Do you want a small school? Do you want to go be where it's warm? Or are you so excited about the snow tomorrow that you want to live where you can ski and snowboard 7 months out of the year? Do you want to take a plane, or do you want to be close enough to home that you can drive in a weekend? So we're starting to really think about that. You know, online has bubbled up. SNU sort of started it pre-COVID, and now it's really taken off with a lot of schools. Like it or not, it is an option for some students to do online learning. We also think about that this is probably going to happen for most of our students for fall of 2023. Many of our kids head right off to college right after graduation. So as we're talking to your students, this is kind of what we're talking about, that it looks different for everybody. And we use the term casting the net out wide right now, just to see what comes in and what sounds appealing, and starting to tour and get excited about their process. So let me show you the video of what some of our BHS alums are up to.
Hi, I'm Jillian LaValle, and I'll be going to Syracuse University to study newspaper and online journalism.
My name is Noah Chadwick, and next year I'll be studying economics and finance at the University of Alabama full-time.
Hi, my name is Anissa, and I'll be attending Mount Holyoke College, and I'll be studying political science. Hi, my name is Chloe Adams, and I'm going to Elon University. Hi, my name is David Lacey, and I'm also going to Elon University.
Hi, I'm Daniel Hawkins, and going to Naval Academy Preparatory School.
Hi, my name is Katie Dillon. I'm going to Southern Education University, where I'm studying special ed and elementary education and minoring in psychology.
Hi, my name is Joshua Lennon. I'll be attending Johnson Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island, studying culinary arts for a bachelor's degree.
I'm Josh Colmer, and I will be attending Maine Maritime Academy, where I will be studying marine engineering technologies.
And I'm Cole Lennon, and I will be doing a postgraduate year at Phillips Exeter Academy.
Hi, I'm May Russell. I'm going to be attending San Diego State University, Go Aztecs, and I will be doing a double major in computer science and international business.
I'm Max Sharvey. I'm going to Fordham University next year, business undecided.
I'm Connor Crowley. I'm going to Syracuse University, and I'm also undecided.
I'm Nolan Anderson. I'm at the University of Washington, and I'm studying neurobiology and physiology.
I'm Mia Roy. I'm going to Bates, and I'm going to be dental and study bio.
Hi, my name is Howard Paiva. I'm going to be attending Champlain College in the fall to study game production management.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Ashburner, and I'm going to NAIT, New England Institute of Technology, where I will be getting my bachelor's in video game design in the art area of it.
Hi, Kayla. I'm going to Florida State University, and I'm double majoring in political science and international relations.
What I love about this video is the diversity of the students, of where they're going and what they're studying. And that's a really beautiful thing here at Bedford. I think I see a lot of the students going on different paths, talking about different colleges that maybe you don't hear about at the dinner tables all the time. And that's really exciting. And that's something that we're hoping to engage our students with too in this process. And I really want to stress that it begins, we've been trying to tell the students during our curriculum days in their junior English classes that this is a process, and it's starting now, but it's going to go for at least another year, and we're going to help them along the way by setting up sort of a to-do list. When they have their junior meeting, they will come home with an electronic to-do list, highlighting things that are most important to focus on now, in the summer, and then again in the fall. So we really try to chunk what needs to be done given the time frame that we have. So the big part of what's happening right now for students is the research component. And this is fun. This is what I tell them. It's shopping, right? It's shopping, but you don't have to buy anything. So this is the fun part. Get online, look at websites. Check out some of the FISC Guide to Colleges. Any of these websites are great. Naviance is the one that we use with our students, and we'll be showing you that a little bit about that in a minute. If you feel comfortable, and as they start to come up either virtually or in person, college fairs can be an effective tool in gathering some information. We also have over 150 representatives that come in the fall, and they will be coming this year as well for the students to take advantage of meeting with. A lot of those reps are the ones that are reading our applications for Bedford. So that's a great opportunity to make that sort of personal connection. Interviews can be an important part of the process. Tours, information sessions, students get career exploration hours for all of that. If you're traveling at all over February or April break, it's great just to check out some of the schools in your local travel destination. Even if your student's not thinking of going there, it's nice to get a perspective of what different schools look like across the country. Open houses, the colleges are really going to be turning their attention to the juniors. So you're going to be getting a lot of mail and a lot of emails and a lot of invitations to open houses. Pick and choose which ones you feel good about going to, but I think they also can be give you a wealth of information about that school and the different programs that the school might offer. And of course, consult any one of us, your school counselor, your child's school counselor. You can call us, email us. Certainly we welcome the students to come in, set up appointments. They will get that 1-hour junior meeting coming up as well. But please use our expertise in this area. It is something we feel really, really passionate about. So I mentioned Naviance. This is the college and career tool. We get all of our freshmen actually logged in to Naviance. This is when the students start to really use it more formally, is in junior year. It is our main college research tool. It's also where students will be listing all of their colleges that they're applying to next year. Right now, we are using it to request letters of recommendation and to save colleges that they're thinking about. This is one way to access Naviance. For you all, our students actually have a single sign-on, so they can go in through their school email, and the little waffle in the right-hand corner, students can click on that, scroll down to find the NA for Naviance. It's purple or gray, and they can have a single sign-on and be right on there. If you all don't, as parents or guardians, have an account, we can register you, so just send your school counselor an email, and we can get you dialed into Naviance so that you can see what your student's working on as well. Next year, this is also where students will be requesting transcripts and where they will be able to sign up for those rep visits that I mentioned that start in the fall. This is a snapshot of what the colleges I'm thinking about looks like. So this is in your left-hand corner, you'll see. This is just a brainstorming list, basically. It can take the place of maybe a spreadsheet for students. You'll see the name of the college, the delivery type. If it's a CA, that is that Common App school. That means they subscribe to the Common App, that one universal application. That can apply you to many, many schools. If the screen is blank, like Coastal Carolina, that means they have their own individual application, so you'd have to go to their website and submit directly through there. You can see that it's added by the school counselor. When your student leaves their junior meeting, I would argue that they will walk out with quite a list of schools that are added by their school counselor. You as parents and guardians can also add schools to their list, and then students can also add schools. So we can all collaborate in just throwing out lots of options. Deadlines we'll talk about later on. It becomes more prevalent and and important in their senior year, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but that drop down does give you a sense of what kinds of deadlines are you looking at. Are you looking at October, November, January? So that's a little snapshot of where we're going to be working with our students, the colleges I'm thinking about tab available through Naviance. Any of you who love good graphs and scattergrams and bar graphs, these next two slides you're going to enjoy. These scattergrams we use with our students. This is data just based off of BHS alumni since 2010. So you have to be a little bit careful about that, right? Because obviously the landscape just through COVID has changed in terms of college admissions, but certainly just in the last 5-6 years, the landscape has changed. So this is data that goes pretty far back to our first graduating class. You can see in this scattergram, though, it gives you a good sense of how to build that 2-2-2 approach, those 2 targets, 2 reaches, and then your 2 safeties. This gives you an idea of, for the student's perspective, of where they fall. If we were logged in as a student, there would be a blue circle with kind of a blue face on it, and that would be the student, and it would be marked with their GPA, and if they had an SAT score in the system, that would be marked there, and you could kind of see where your student would fall. The green checks are obviously accepted. The green circles are waitlisted. You don't see a ton of those up there. Purple is also waitlisted or unknown, and then we have waitlisted, denied in red, and then the checks are denials. So you can see that BU boasts about a 4.0 average admittance rate, and then about a 15-13 on the SAT. So it just gives you a good perspective of when you're starting to build your reaches, targets, and safeties, where the student might fall for a school like BU. And here's an example of URI. You see a lot of green checks. URI loves our BHS students. They've got some great programming down there. The beaches don't shy away too many students either, so we've done quite well at URI. You see a lot of green checks. We do add in this bar graph. If this is more visually appealing to you, it goes by year. So you can see from the class of 2021, 2022, and all the way back to 2016, how many students applied, how many were accepted, and then how many enrolled. Again, just good data. The college admissions process has a fair amount of data involved in the equations of figuring out what are good schools, good fits for your students academically. And this bar graph and these scattergrams can help with that process. And we talk to the students about that in their junior meeting as well. And again, you can see this for all the schools that we have in Naviance. You can have this information if we have data based off of previous classes applying and enrolling. So this next video, I'll let Ms. Durowa talk a little bit more about, but we're going to be moving into factors to consider when looking at colleges.
Hello, my name is Robin Durowa, and I'm one of the school counselors here at Bedford. Excited to be with you guys tonight. I am a new face here at Bedford, but I am not new to the college process. So I was for the last 7 years at a private high school in New Hampshire. So I can tell you I have been diving very, very deep into the college process for many years. And I was in New York City for 14 years before that. So promise you, if your kids are on my caseload, they're in good hands, even though I'm new to Bedford. So the next video will be talking about and just kind of looking a little bit more into finding your right fit into a college, and then we're going to dive deeper into that after the video. Great. So one thing I want to mention first, and why we're really lucky to be living in this area of the country, is we have so many schools within an hour radius of Bedford. So when you are starting this process and you're thinking like, I don't even, and as a student or as a parent, like, I don't even know where to begin. What schools do we even start to look at? So you want to start by thinking about a Goldilocks list. So you want to think about big schools, medium-sized schools, small schools, rural schools, suburban schools, urban schools. So maybe you're looking at a Colby Sawyer, right? And you drive an hour, go up to New London. So you see a rural school on a beautiful campus, right? But pretty far away from, not civilization, but from suburbia. Then you've got, right in your backyard, you've got St. A's in Manchester. Great suburban school, beautiful campus, mid-sized, small school. You can go over to UNH, great college town, mid-sized school, or you can head down to Boston, look at BU, BC. So all these schools at your fingertips, before you even consider necessarily what you want, just start to get on some of these college campuses. Even if you can't get a tour, just drive through them and get a sense of, do I like that urban environment? Do I like the suburban? Do I like the college campus? Do I want to be really far removed from civilization? So starting with that Goldilocks list is a great place to start. Then you're going to start to be thinking about your college list. And Ms. Lipinski was talking about that 2-2-2 approach. So you're likely target and reach schools. So we really do want you to target at least 2 schools in each of those categories. More than likely, your students are going to have more schools than that. We tend to see kids will apply to 6 to 10 schools. All depends on what kind of schools that they choose. Some schools or some students will choose more schools than 10. We don't advise too many because those applications really do financially and time-wise start to add up. Or they might end up applying to fewer schools if, let's say, they want to apply to UNH and we really feel like it's a perfect fit for them. So that's putting that list together. So as you're thinking about fit, I'm going to kind of put a lot of this together. You do want to think about all those different components that are going to make that college experience really special for you. So certainly academic. Does that college have the major that you are looking for? I had a student a few years ago who wanted to be a physical therapist, and one of the schools he was looking at didn't even have like a pre-med program that would get him to that physical therapy school. So that's not going to be the right fit, right? So you want to make sure, if you know what your intended major is, that you're looking at schools that actually have that major. More important with smaller schools, the big universities are going to have pretty much everything that you want. Social. So when you're getting onto these college campuses, asking about, what are the kids or what are the students doing when they're not in class? Are there a lot of clubs? Is it a commuter school? Do kids stick around on the weekends and hang out with each other? Or are they getting in their cars and driving somewhere else? If that's important to you, you want to be looking at all those extracurricular things, intramural sports, all that stuff that's really important to you as a student or that you know is important to your child. So you want to look at those. Financial fit, really important. You'll see one of the last bullet points is finding your financial safety school. You really want to consider that price tag. At the end of the day, right, someone's going to need to pay for this college education, and we all know it can be super pricey. Couple things to remember and keep in mind. A state school isn't always necessarily the cheapest option. So you may think UNH would be the cheapest, but at the end of the day, it might end up being a private school where your student gets a lot of merit money. So you really want to be thoughtful and kind of looking at these schools, and we can help guide you a little bit there too, and looking at some of the financial calculators that each school has on their website to start to think about what that price tag might look like for your student. Another thing that's really important is to think outside the box. So what we find is if all Bedford students are applying to the exact same schools, right, it makes it more competitive for each student. So you really want to think like, okay, let me think, here's my list of schools in the area that I'm really excited about, but I'm gonna go look at some schools maybe in Utah or Oregon or California. Pick some schools that nobody else at Bedford is applying to because that school's gonna be pretty excited to see a Bedford High School student, right? And they're not gonna be comparing you to any other Bedford High School students. So you really do wanna think outside the box. All right, types of admission. I'm not going to go through this in too much detail because there's a lot of different deadline dates, and that will be kind of more clear as you're going through the process. The one thing that I do want to impress upon you is that colleges want students to apply when their application is at its strongest. So if that's earlier in the year, so in your senior year, early admission, early action or early decision, those applications tend to come up between like October 1st and early December. If you feel like my application is super strong right now, you're going to send it. That's great. Get it off your plate. A lot of times colleges will let you know before the holidays, not always, but sometimes, which is really nice. But if you feel like, you know what, I've got a really busy fall, or you know what, I had a C during my junior year and I really think that I can get all A's and B's my senior year, I prefer to wait. I want to apply later, potentially January, February, so that I can have at least my first quarter, if not my first semester of grades to submit to that college. So again, that's something that all of us will, when we sit down with our students, we'll be starting to explore that with them even this year. What do those deadline dates look like? What does their transcript look like? Their activities in the fall? What makes sense for them when to apply? Early decision though, if you could just kind of, I think as many times as we can repeat this, is probably good. Early decision is financially binding. So that one you do want to consider. You can only apply to one, and if you get accepted, you're going and you're paying that price tag. So you'll hear more about that, but something to remember. I'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so essential elements of the application. The most important part of your application is going to be the transcript, right? That's your academic record. So that is going to be the first thing that schools consider. However, all schools look at a student holistically, so there are going to be all other components of that application that are going to be very important when they're looking at your student. Standardized tests. I think we get into this a little bit more later, so I won't go into too much detail, but a lot of schools are test optional. However, we do recommend that your student go ahead and take it, but I do think Ms. Metz is going to talk about that. But that is a part of the application. Whether a student applies via the Common App, the Coalition, directly to the institution, I know probably all of this feels like, what are you talking about? They're just words. It'll all make more sense as you're really diving into it. But both the Common App and the Coalition applications, those are standard applications that students apply online, and they can apply to several schools or most of their schools through that one application, which is great. So it's kind of one stop for them. Within that, they're going to talk about their activities, they're going to write a personal narrative, and potentially write some supplemental essays for particular colleges that have that requirement. All stuff that we're going to be going through with them. Hopefully they'll start working on that this spring and then diving deeper into that over the summer. Letters of recommendation, Ms. Metz is going to actually talk about that in a little bit, so I will pause that. And then other components of the application would be either interviews, portfolios, auditions, depending on if your student is applying to a fine arts program or an architecture program. A lot of schools, or schools used to have interviews. Those I see are tending to go away a little bit more because they're so time consuming for colleges, but that could be a part of it. NCAA, if you think your child wants to play a Division I or II collegiate sport, it's really important for us to know that now because there's a part of the process that we need to start this year if possible. And then the last part is the FAFSA, so that's going to be the financial aid application. That's the federal financial aid application, and then there's a CSS profile, it's more financial aid. That is way too much information now. I'm sure that we will go into in a lot more detail next year. But I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Allie Metz to go on with our program.
Thank you. So we're going to dive a little deeper into just some specific pieces of the application process there. So like Ms. Durowa said, so letters of recommendation, this is a big piece of that application. We talked a lot about this with your students in that first presentation when we went into their classes right before the holiday break. So we talked a lot extensively about thinking about who you would like to write your letters of recommendation. As a counselor, we're automatically going to write a letter of recommendation for your student. And then we typically recommend 2 teacher letters of recommendation. Typically that comes from your junior year. Lots of times kids will do just automatically, hey, I have an A in this class, so I'm going to ask that teacher. that teacher might not necessarily be the best person. So we want you to kind of think about, who do you have the best relationship with? Who have you maybe had to work a little bit hard and they can talk about your work ethic and they know you a little bit more individually. So you kind of want to start thinking who you have a good rapport with, who might be able to talk about things outside of the classroom, how you are as a student, your work ethic, things of that sort in your letter there. So like I said, we recommend 2 teacher letters. Typically, we recommend one on the humanities-based side and then one on the STEM side there, especially if you were kind of undecided about what pathway you want to go there. It shows a well-rounded picture of your student there. Especially, so if you have an English and history teacher, they're going to write very similar letters for you just because similar topic and similar work in those classes there. So like we said, we would recommend 2 teacher letters and then 1 council letter there. We typically recommend that students start to ask in the spring of their junior year. Many teachers will cap it at a certain amount. As you can imagine, they get a wealth of recommendations for their letters. So the sooner they can ask, the better. Typically, students start to kind of ask around April vacation there, but definitely we would recommend asking those 2 teachers in person first. So having a conversation with the teacher because they might want to get a little bit more background information about you. But we typically recommend that that happens in the spring of your junior year, to talk to those teachers in person to kind of see if they feel comfortable writing that letter there. And then once you do that, you will request it in Naviance, and we're happy to walk your student through that process there. The teacher will upload it to Naviance, and that's how we will send it there. But like we said, it's really important to kind of dive in and think about the teacher that you want to write the letter of recommendation and have a conversation ahead of time. So we talked a little bit about different pieces of the application, and so there's a lot of moving parts. We don't expect you to remember this, but this is just a little bit of who submits what. So your student is in charge of submitting that application. That might be the Common App, the Coalition, the institutional application there. So you and your student are in charge of submitting that piece when it comes time. They also, if they opt to send their test scores, you guys would be required to send official test scores. Your student would be, just because we don't have access to the official test score there, and we're happy to walk through that with your student as well. But if they opt to send official test scores to the institution, your student would have to help with that. The school counselor, we are in charge of sending your transcripts so that the school profile, which is a wealth of information about Bedford High School. If you're curious about ours, it is posted on the website, but it just kind of talks about what we offer here at Bedford High School, sort of what our student's body looks like and things of that sort. And then we also send your letters of recommendation. So your 2 teacher letters and the counselor letter. And so that's sort of just a little pathway of who is sending what. The counselor will send all of that in Naviance, so that's why it's important to start exploring, make sure your student can get into Naviance. You're going to be experts in Naviance by the time this process is over. And so just to reiterate, your student is in charge of the application and then test scores, and then we sort of take care of the other pieces there. So we talked a little bit about the SAT. This is always a hot topic, right? And so like Ms. Durowa said, many schools right now are what we call test optional, meaning it's not a required piece to be admitted to the school there. Because of COVID, many schools went test optional. We haven't really heard from institutions what that's going to look like for the class of 2023. As we hear more, we will definitely let you all know. But as of right now, we would encourage everyone to at least take it once. Your juniors are slated to take the SAT actually on March 23rd. So that will be here at Bedford High School. It is considered an official SAT. So we would really encourage your student to try their best on that SAT. So as you can see, there's a few different sections. There's a math and a reading section, which are the 2 main sections there. During the school day SAT, your student will have an opportunity to take the essay. This is the only opportunity they will take. Schools do not look at it anymore, institutions. It's just something that they are required to do for the state too. We utilize the SAT as our state testing too. So just wanted to note that that won't be offered on national testing dates, and that's okay because institutions, it's kind of not a big part of their application there. So we just wanted to, all juniors won't have to sign up or anything. They're automatically signed up to take it on March 23rd, but we would encourage you to kind of prep, try your best for that. And then many students opt to take it again on their own, and we can kind of talk through when that might be a good time for your student there. Many of your students might have taken the PSAT. If they didn't, that's okay. The PSAT is essentially just a practice exam to maybe see how you're doing, to kind of get that format, hear the wording of the questions there. If you had an opportunity, we can definitely talk kind of through those scores with your student in their junior meeting. If they did not, that's okay. There's lots of opportunities online to kind of take practice SATs. A great resource that we like to recommend is Khan Academy. And so you can take a practice SAT and it will kind of create a very individualized study guide for you for free, which is nice. And so students that have opted to use that have seen a significant increase in scores. But like we said, it's kind of evolving. Every school's testing requirements are different. So a great way to kind of see where your test scores fall is to look on those scattergrams that Ms. Lipinski was looking at earlier and on the school's website. And it's been changing a lot the last few years just due to COVID. And as we know more about class of 23 and requirements with testing, we'll definitely let your students know that. So lots of information has kind of been thrown at you guys, and so we don't expect you to remember everything. That's what we're here for, and these are just some sort of tips that we would recommend kind of to help you to move forward in the process. So really be organized, and that's going to look different for everybody. Some students like to write it down, use an agenda. Some students come in with these spreadsheets with dates and things like that, or Naviance. Create a calendar. Definitely deadlines are important. A deadline is a deadline in the college application process. So if you miss that, then you kind of have to wait to the next one, or just really breaking it up. And so like Ms. Lipinski mentioned, your student will leave their junior meeting with a very detailed to-do list. And so I would really recommend that they follow that to-do list there. Use your resources. There's lots of resources for your student here. They can always come to the counseling. Yes, they'll have a 1-hour junior meeting, but that's not like one and done. We would encourage them to kind of continue to chat with us throughout the entire process. And there's some great free resources out there too. So NEEF is another great one, which is a New Hampshire program. And then a lot of times it's okay to talk to the college admissions office, go take a tour, kind of talk to the admissions office, what they want to see on a transcript, things of that sort there. And definitely just communication, right? But remember that process is very individualized and looks very different for everybody, but kind of talking to the adults in the students' lives is very helpful there. So I'm going to kind of hand it over to Ms. Barnes to wrap us up a little bit.
Hello? Good? Okay. Oh, good. Okay. Anyway, so this is normally one of my favorite processes with the students. Tonight, not so much. So we're going to talk a little bit about junior year timeline, to-do list, junior meeting. Like that's been said a couple of times already. Our juniors are going to be meeting with their counselors starting the week of January 18th. Some of the juniors have already come in and scheduled appointments with us. If your student has not, encourage them to do that. It'll be an hour-long presentation, discussion between the counselor and the student, and they will leave with a ton of information, which will be helpful. And we'll continue to reiterate this information throughout their junior year and again the fall of their senior year. So it is a lot of information. It can be very overwhelming, but we all love this process and we go over it with them many times. And as parents, don't ever hesitate to reach out and talk with us and ask us questions as well. Your junior will take the SATs. We just learned that, March 23rd. They are scheduled to take those in school, which is a great opportunity. Their students can register for any other SAT, ACT, or subject tests. The ACT is another standardized test. It's a little bit different than the SAT. Some students will choose to take both to see how they do on either. And the subject tests are just more specific. The SAT subject tests are the students are tested in more specific areas. And some colleges do require those, so you'll have to keep your eye on the requirements for each of the colleges. Attend college fairs and visit campuses. So this is really important, just to kind of get your face out there, meet some of the college reps that come to the the college fairs. Also, it's so important to visit college campuses and really get your feet on the campus and see what it's all about. It's one thing to just look at the pictures online of the college campuses because they're only going to post the prettiest pictures of their schools. It's another to actually be there, see the buildings in person, see how the students interact with each other, check out the dining halls and the dorms and see what it's all about because you can really get a better feel of whether that college campus is going to be a good fit for you or not. Browse viewbooks, applications, and websites. That's important to get more information for sure. So definitely check the websites out. I know I was saying pushing the college visits, but definitely check the websites out too, just to see what they have. They're a wealth of great information. Every one of the colleges have a really great informative website. Request information from colleges. You can reach out to them and request information. They'll send you packets of stuff. I know you guys will already be getting a lot of things in the mail and email, but it doesn't hurt to reach out to those schools that you are interested in to try to get some more information, just so you know you're making the right choice when you're deciding to apply there. Customize and narrow your search on Naviance. So we're going to be working on that. We've already kind of started going into junior classes and starting to research the colleges and adding some schools into your students' accounts. So we're going to continue to do that, and we'll do that even more so when we meet with them one-on-one. Keep in mind the 2-2-2 approach that's been mentioned a couple of times already. Request letters of recommendation in person first. So it's really important when you're asking for a letter of recommendation to have a conversation with the teacher about it. Encourage your student to have a conversation with the teachers that they're going to be asking. And it's not like yelling down the hallway like, hey, can you write my letter for me as they're running to the next class. You really need to set aside a time, have your students set aside that time to go up to the teacher and have a conversation with them. Some of them will want to sit with them and ask them questions. So it's important to get that accomplished first. And once the teacher agrees, then the student can go into Naviance and formally request the letter. They can be starting to write a draft of the college essay. So if you guys start to look at the Common App, which is an application that hundreds of schools are a part of, that a lot of our students will utilize to fill out one application and send it to multiple schools. You can look in, as you're doing some research, you can look at the essay prompts to see what types of essays they're going to ask you. And have your student just take a look at it and see which one they feel they can write the strongest essay about, and have them start writing a draft this year. And NCAA registration, if applicable, that is for the Division I or II sports in college. That's something that we should have a discussion about as well, if that is something your student plans to be doing. Okay, here's the senior year timeline. So it's a little bit more. There's a lot to do, more so in the fall. Register for the Common App or the Coalition, if applicable. So that is something that your student can do in the summer or very early fall. I wouldn't do it before then because the Common App resets itself usually at the end of the summer, and you wouldn't want your student to fill out some applications and then send things out for wrong application years. So it's typically the end of August. September is important for your student to register for the Common App. The Coalition is a similar application that does encompass some other colleges as well. It's not as common as the Common App. Register, take the SAT, ACT, subject tests again if you feel like you can prove more than your previous scores from what you take your junior year. Your student can register to take them. They can take the SATs as many times as they would like to. Continue to visit college campuses, meet with reps at BHS. We do have college reps that come in, a lot of them in the fall. They come in and meet with students who are interested in applying or who may be interested in applying to their schools. And this is a really great opportunity because the student really gets a chance to sit with the college rep, who usually is the rep that's going to be reviewing their application if they apply there, and get to know them a little bit. And the rep gets to know our students a little bit, which is nice for them when it comes time to reviewing applications. Continue, Begin applications. Keep your eye on those deadlines. Early action deadlines are usually October, November, so they come up really fast when we get back to school. So it's really important for your student to have a really good idea of where they might want to apply to when they're coming into their senior year, just so that they can be ready and prepared to apply if they choose to apply early. Finalize the essay, write any supplements. Some colleges will ask for supplemental questions in addition to the normal essay that is part of the application. So they'll have to work on those. Formally request letters of recommendation and transcripts through Naviance. So that is after, again, you ask your teachers in person. You formally invite them through Naviance if they say yes. Students also have to request to have their transcripts sent to the colleges, just giving us permission. We do that in the counseling office, but we need that permission to be able to do so. And we typically ask for 2 weeks notice before the deadline for that. In the winter, students are going to start to apply for financial aid. There are certain deadlines. Every college has its own deadline that is different from the application deadline. So that's also something you want to keep your eye on. We will have a financial aid night in the fall for you guys to come and learn more information about financial aid, which will be important. Apply for scholarships. We're going to be starting to go into meet with our seniors to talk about the scholarship process soon, so that is something that we will go over with your students their senior year. Complete admission applications, so regular decision rolling admission. So if your student chooses not to apply early, that's okay. They can apply a regular decision deadline or rolling deadlines at any point in time during the year. Begin to hear from colleges, communicate with school counselor. So these are things that, if you apply early, you're going to start to hear back earlier from the colleges, which is always nice to get that, that communication back from the colleges as soon as possible, because I know it can be very nerve-wracking to be sitting around waiting to hear from them. And start writing your thank you notes, maybe to those teachers that wrote letters of recommendation for you or anyone else who may have helped you throughout the process. In the spring, the national candidate reply date is May 1st, so that's the date that everybody has to decide where they are going to college, and they have to have their deposit in. So at this point in your senior year, you will know where you're going to school. Finish the year strongly. Colleges will look at your final transcript. So just because you apply, let's say early, you get in, you're accepted, you think, okay, I can just breeze through the rest of my senior year. Colleges will ask for your final transcript, so they do see your final year grades. And if they see a drop in your grades, they're going to question it. So it's really important to finish out the year strongly. And then for those students who haven't yet applied, that is okay too. We do have a on-site admissions day where some schools will come in and meet with us and work out plans with you guys to help encourage you to go to one of their schools. Now what? So upcoming lessons, we are going into humanities classes. We're going to be doing part 2 of our junior presentations, which is really great. We're going to start to explore Naviance a little bit more in these meetings. Students will sign up for their junior meetings beginning January 18th through the spring. It will be one-on-one. It's going to be very personalized. Again, have your junior come in and either see us to schedule that appointment with us or send an email to their counselor so that we can get them in the books, get them in the calendar. We're going to start it in January, but they're going to run through the spring. So don't panic if you don't get an appointment January, February. We will be doing it throughout pretty much the rest of the year. They will leave with a detailed to-do list, which will be really great to help. Checklists are always really great to help when there's a lot of information. Parents connect with Naviance if desired. That would be beneficial to see what your student is doing, what they're up to, just to kind of give some added support at the home level. Students and parents check BHS College Visit webpage, so you'll be able to see who is coming in the fall. I think right now you can look and see who came this year, just to get an idea of who came in to visit with our students. But starting in the fall, you'll want to check that out, because if any of the reps are coming in, you're going to want to see, meet with them in person if that's a school that you are considering applying to. Follow up with students, school counselor, anytime with any questions. Like I said, don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. This is a really fun part of our job, and we're all really knowledgeable in this area, and we love doing it. So don't ever hesitate to reach out to us with any questions or concerns that you may have. Lastly, Destination College is an event that is put on to help students and their families prepare for college. So this is information on that. If you choose to attend, it is put on, it's hosted by St. A's through NEAF. The NEAF network is a really great organization that we use a lot. So yeah, it's free, and it's just going to give you some more helpful information that'll benefit your student when applying to schools.
Hey, ooh, so that was a lot of information. I just want to do a couple last plugs. One is Destination College that we just had on the screen. We will send out, as soon as we get registration information, excuse me, we will send that out to juniors. It's a really great opportunity. Has all different types of workshops that students can attend and different ones for parents. It's really great, and having it right here at St. A's is really convenient. So we'll send that out to you. I strongly encourage any first-time college families going through this process to attend that. Also, another key piece that's really important about Naviance and those colleges you're thinking about list, we talked a lot about the colleges that are coming in the fall and visiting. When a student has a school, say for instance Syracuse is on their list of schools they're thinking about, when Syracuse contacts us and says we're coming to your school on this date at this time, your student will automatically get notified of that happening. So that's the nice part about Naviance and how things are connected. So making sure they're using Naviance to the best of their ability and their school counselor is going to help them is really important to get those notifications. So with that, we're going to open up to questions. We really would like the questions that you guys ask here to kind of be ones that hopefully are good for everybody, that everybody might have or from the presentation. If you have a specific question to your student or your family, I encourage you to just hold off, and we will stick around after we're done presenting, and you can come up and ask your counselor. I might actually have you do that in Bulldog Corner, because we are going to replay the videos because there were some sound issues for the people at home. So with that, we're going to open it up to questions. And some of the other counselors are going to help with questions too. So if you have a question, go ahead and put your hand up and we'll come around. Okay, go ahead. Do you mind saying it so everybody can hear?
Thank you. I just wanted to ask about the gap year. I didn't hear a lot about the gap year or the postgraduate program.
So his question was about a gap year. Mr. Pelletier, do you want to talk about gap year a little bit? Postgrad year?
So there are a lot of misconceptions about gap years. I think every parent's experience and student's experience is a little bit different. So we try to provide some education around gap years to students, especially during the junior and senior meeting. A gap year can be a very pivotal time for students. Most college admissions counselors do not look at gap years as a year off from school to work at Zales or Dunkin' Donuts or something like that to try to figure out what they want to do. Now that might be effective and it might be a healthy choice for some students. And then, you know, if that's the case and that would need to be communicated to colleges, that's what you're, you know, deciding to do and why you're doing that. But there are a lot of official gap year programs out there that provide exceptional experiences for students, whether it's something on a global level, state level, or national level. And we can share those resources with your students. A lot of those programs are approved by colleges, and they do help to foster independent skills in students. Some gap years are going to work with students to try to help them discover what their strengths and weaknesses are and what they may want to pursue as a career. Other gap years are, may provide some sort of work study or working with another group of teenagers living in a dorm, practicing those independent living skills while working in either a trade or an industry that they might be interested in, or volunteering on some level. And those experiences are pretty rich, and colleges like to see students do those. So we do go into those conversations with students a couple of times junior, senior year, and we provide the resources for them to to consider and to bring home. Does that answer your question? Okay, good.
I'm just going to add just slightly to that too. Gap year options typically will come into play in the early spring of their senior year. So usually we encourage students to go through the application process, get their letters of recommendation, use their school counselor, research colleges, at the same time that they're also researching a gap year. That way they leave all their options open, because if you hold off until wait till you do a gap year, it might be too late if they change their mind for some applications. So those processes usually happen simultaneously, and then they can choose to defer a year to the college they were accepted to do a gap year, so they have all their options open. Okay, well, thank you all very much. If you have a specific question for your counselor, I'm going to have them go out into Bulldog Corner, and you can go ahead and ask them out there. I'll be out there soon as I wrap things up in here. So thank you very much.